Hey guys, it's Rosa here. I hope you're all having a lovely day. Today I'm going to be filming a video tutorial for you, which has been a long time coming, so I really am sorry for how long it's taken me to get this edited and uploaded. But I'm going to be making a slash neck Agnes tee by Tilly and the Buttons. So I'll be showing you how to change the scoop neck to a slash neck, and also I'm going to be showing you how I pattern match my stripes, because it's a question that I've had quite a few times as a stripe enthusiast. So let's get started. You will need your Agnes pattern, your pins and your dressmaking scissors, which should be nice and sharp, a Sharpie pen. I use greaseproof paper to copy out my pattern pieces, and also of course a spool of matching cotton. To know how much of the stretch fabric you'll need, you just need to check the back of your pattern envelope. You'll also need some clear elastic to stabilise your shoulders. So the first thing we're going to do is redraft the pattern so that it has a slash neck. So you can see here I've just laid over the greaseproof paper, aligning the straight edge with the centre front of the pattern piece. I'm starting with the centre here. And then I'm just going to trace out the shoulder, the armhole, and then the side, because these are the parts I'm not going to change at all. Of course, we'll also trace out the bottom of the top. If you want to shorten or lengthen, now's the time to do it. Now what I'm doing here is just drafting in the neckline. So as you can see here, I've just drawn a slightly curved line going straight across from the corner of the shoulder seam right across to the centre front. I thought I would leave a little bit at the top for the shoulder seam, but actually I changed my mind. So you can see I've just curved that off there. So the line goes straight across the front. And once you've done that, you can grab your paper scissors and cut out your pattern piece. We're actually going to be using this as both the front and the back, because the front and the back on a slash neck top are identical. So we don't need to do the same on the back piece. We can just use this piece for the front and the back. Once I've done that, I always label my pattern pieces because I find it really easy to forget what patterns are after a while. I'm also going to be using just the plain old Agnes sleeve, which as you can see here is a well-loved pattern piece, which I've cut up and used in all different ways over the years that I've had it, because I love this pattern. Now we're ready to start cutting out our pattern pieces. Now when I'm working with stripes, I tend to just fold it over as small amount as I need to, and then I pattern match up the edges so that I know that the stripe that I'm going to be getting runs straight all the way through. Of course, both pattern pieces, the front and the back, are cut on the fold. So once we've aligned that up, we can just go right ahead, pin it on, or if you'd like to use pattern weights, some people like to do that for jersey as well. I don't have any, but I have used like candles and stuff like that in the past, but today I'm just using pins, and for me they're fine. And we're going to cut out two of these, one for the front and one for the back. A good tip for pattern matching stripes is to check which colour stripe is at the bottom of your pattern piece. So you can see here I had a black stripe at the bottom of the pattern piece. And then when you take it off and cut it again for your back piece, make sure you have the black stripe at the bottom of that piece too. And you'll know that the front and back are going to match up together. After that, we're ready to cut out our sleeve, and again I always make sure I line the bottom of the sleeve up with a straight line across one of the stripes, and that way I'll again make sure that the stripes will match around the sleeve as well as around the body, because I like to have a pattern match all the way around. To get it really accurate, I actually cut my sleeves out on a single layer of fabric, but of course if you want to fold your fabric and cut two sleeves at the same time, it's completely up to you. You can see here I've actually folded up the Agnes sleeve piece because I didn't want it to be a full length sleeve. I kind of like a slash neck striped tee with a 3/4 length, because it kind of has that sort of Breton-y French look, which I really like. Once we've cut out our front, our back and our sleeve, we're going to start sewing. So we need to get our clear elastic, and we're going to cut a little piece of clear elastic the width of both of the shoulder seams. And if you look here, I'm just using the pattern piece to measure this out because the fabric might have stretched a little bit, so I always use the pattern piece to measure this. Once you've cut out both pieces of clear elastic, you can take it over to your sewing machine and zigzag it along the shoulder seams on the back of your top. Now it's time for us to finish our neckline. To do this, I simply fold over the neckline by about 1 centimetre to 1.5 centimetres, depending on how much give the fabric has, and I pin it down all the way around. Once you've folded over the neckline and pinned it down, it should look like this. Now we're going to head over to our sewing machine to sew it down. Make sure you're using a ballpoint needle or a jersey stretch needle. And with this fabric, I've just done some testing, and because it's quite fine, I'm going to reduce my tension a little bit to -1. Now using a zigzag stitch, I'm just going to run all the way along the neckline, and I'm going to do the same on the front and the back. Once you've zigzagged down the edge of the neckline, it should look a bit like this from the right side. And again, that's on the front and back pieces. Whenever I do any sewing with jersey, particularly around necklines and hems, I think it's a really good idea to give it a press, and that will just flatten it right out for you if it's rippled at all. Now I'm going to go ahead and set out one of my pieces on the front, and I'm just going to lay it out on the floor here with the right side facing up. Then I'm going to take the other piece, the back piece, and lay it on the top with the right sides facing. So I've got the folded over bits facing outwards and the right sides of the front and back touching one another in the middle. When I've set these out with the right sides touching, I'm going to pin together the shoulder seams, just using a couple of pins at each shoulder. Now I'm going to switch to my trusty stretch stitch, which I use number 13 on my machine, but of course you can use whichever one you want. I'm going to sew across both shoulders. Once you've sewn both shoulders together, I'm going to open it up and you can see how it's going to be looking. So I've got a hole in the middle, which will be your neckline, and I'm going to start now pinning on the sleeves. So to start off with, I'm going to be matching up the notch on my sleeve piece, which matches up with the centre point, which is of course the shoulder seam, and I'm going to then pin it all the way around the armhole, making sure I ease it in just a teeny tiny bit because the sleeve is ever so slightly larger than the opening, but not very much at all. I tend to use absolutely loads of pins for sewing in sleeves, so I just think it makes easing it in a little bit easier. And once you've pinned the sleeve in all the way around the sleeve head, it should look like this. I'm just going to head back over to the machine, and again using that trusty stretch stitch, I'm going to sew the sleeve in all the way around and repeat the whole process on the other sleeve. Once you've sewn in both sleeves, it should look a bit like this when it's all opened up, so you can see the front and or back, which are obviously identical, with both sleeves in the middle. So now it's going to really start to look like a top, because I'm going to take one of the bodice pieces, the body pieces, and fold it across, as you can see here, and matching up the side seams, I'm going to pin all the way up the side of the body and all the way down the side of the sleeve. I'm going to do this on both sides so my top really starts to take shape. Now, of course, it's time for our stripe matching. So I do tend to use quite a lot of pins because I think it's good to pin the stripes every maybe 3 or 4 centimeters maximum. Just because this way, I think you really guarantee you're going to get a really good pattern match, and it doesn't really take a lot longer. So you can see here, I don't pin the center of the stripe, I pin the edges of the stripes. And I'm going to do that yeah, I'll sort of, I don't think you have to pin every stripe, especially if it's like a really narrow one like this, because that would just be crazy. It would be there forever. But I do like to pin, yeah, like I said, every 3 or 4 centimeters, and I always pin on the edge to make sure you get a really crisp match. Once you've pinned up those side seams all the way around, it's time to head over to the sewing machine once again and sew them up. Now our top is pretty much finished, so the last step I'm going to do is just fold over 2 stripes, because I quite like hemming with stripes, and I'm going to hem the bottom of my top that's going all the way around in a complete circle, and I'm going to switch to a zigzag stitch to do this because I like the look of it. Once you've hemmed the bottom of your top, you can go ahead and hem the sleeves, which I do in exactly the same way. I just fold up about 1.5 centimetres or so and then zigzag along. And here you can see my side seams as the result of my pattern matching. And then, ta-da! Your stripy Breton top is finished with a slash neck. I do hope you enjoyed this tutorial, guys, and it was helpful. Please do give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and do click subscribe or check out any of my other videos if you're interested in sewing, because I've got lots of things over on there, some more tutorials, sewing plans, videos, makes, that sort of thing. So do check it out. Anyway, yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will hopefully see you again very soon. Have a great week. Bye.